Two heads, one tail, Yang Yin. Two heads, one tail, Yang Yin. Two tails, one head, Yang Yang. This is Gen Mountain, the Trigram Gen Mountain. Two tails, one head, Yang Yang. Two heads, one tail, Yang Yin. Two tails, one head, yang yang. Another Gen Mountain. Oh, no. That's Li, Fire and Light. So our bottom trigram will be read as broken, broken, solid, or yin, yin, yang, Gen Mountain. The mountain is still. It is a limit where you must stop. Gen brings each cycle to an end, defining a space where we can recognize, assimilate, and complete our experience. He creates a personal, still center amid change where we can retreat for perspective and a firm foundation for new growth. He is well-grounded, confident, and of independent spirit. He is still and knows. Mountain is the youngest son, child of maturity. In the cycle of directions and seasons, he is the northeast, late winter approaching spring, the pivot between cycles. Our top or outer trigram of the only hexagram we are getting for this reading is solid, broken, solid, or yang, yin, yang. This is Li, Fire and Light. Li is fire and light, both inner and outer. As an inner light, she is consciousness at its most lucid and unclouded, holding things together in the mind, perceiving their differences and connections, and discerning the underlying patterns of relationship. And as well as vision, Li is the light that makes things visible, the power to cast light on things, spreading clarity and the awareness of order. Li is the middle daughter, living in the south, the region of midsummer and the burning sun. Li, Fire and Light above Gen Mountain give us the hexagram. 56. We will get the title to our hexagram from I-ming's Taoist I Ching, which he wrote in 1796 as a Taoist adept. It is quite alchemical in nature. Hexagram 56, I-ming calls travel, stabilizing and nurturing illumination, transcending the world. Why don't we first look at Kibi's I Ching Tarot to see her image that she gave for 56 travel. I recommend if you want to get into I Ching and just want to use the cards, these are pretty cool. But I would also highly recommend if you're starting out getting the next book we'll read from, Hilary Barrett's I Ching, Walking Your Path, Creating Your Future. Kibi calls 56 Wanderer. Self-testing, loneliness, calmness, and wisdom. The person leaves their familiar surroundings and finds their own meaning in a lonely environment. Card pattern draws a bird whose nest has been burnt. All right, next we will look at Hilary Barrett's I Ching, Walking Your Path, Creating Your Future. Hexagram 56, she likes to call traveling. When we approach the I Ching to consult the oracle, the question we bring to it will always have the general context of how can I act in creative relation with the spirits or forces shaping this moment of time. Key questions. What do you bring with you into each new situation? What does this place ask of you? Oracle. Traveler. Creating small success. Traveling. Constancy brings good fortune. The traveler is on a journey of his own, just passing through this place and staying for a while. To be the traveler means you are not at home here. You know you don't belong. Also, you have a strong personal direction. Wherever you find yourself for now, you know it does not define you. As the traveler, you might be like King Hai, an early leader of the Shang. His people were nomads who stopped to pasture their animals at a place called Yi, change. They were welcomed by the local people until Hai danced for their ruler and seduced his wife. Then the Yi ruler had Hai executed and took his herds, and his people fled. Since you are only passing through, your creative involvement is limited. You can have the small success of being well received if you fit in responsively, rather than dancing your own dance, regardless of where you are. You cannot expect to change your surroundings, and nor should your surroundings change you. It is good to be constant to your own way as you travel. As Hai discovered, this can be a difficult balance to keep. To be true to yourself and still fit into a place that is not your own. Image. Above the mountain is fire, traveling. A noble one is clear and thoughtful in administering punishments and doesn't draw out legal proceedings. The fire above the mountain is like a campfire. Before its limited fuel is exhausted and the flames die down, any disputes must be resolved. Then the travelers will be free to move on next day. So a noble one completes things with the firmness of a mountain and uses the clarity of fire to cast light on decisions and endings. You have neither the resources nor the time to get embroiled in long drawn-out wranglings, either with yourself or with others. Sequence. Traveling follows from Hexagram 55, abundance. Exhausting greatness naturally means letting your dwelling place go, and so traveling follows. In the time of abundance, you are at the center of your domain, with a great wealth of resources, demands, and responsibilities coming to you. Now that time is over, you leave home behind and carry your small uniqueness out into the larger world. Next, we will look at Hexagram 56 through the lens of I-ming in his Taoist I Ching, which he wrote in 1796 as a Taoist adept. 56. Travel. Travel is developmental when small. If travel is correct, it leads to good fortune. Explanation. Travel means passing through and not lingering. As to the qualities of the hexagram, above is fire, luminous, and below is mountain, still. Using illumination with stability, illumination being based on stillness, one stabilizes the illumination and does not use it carelessly. Therefore, this is called travel. This hexagram represents nurturing the fire and transcending the world. It follows on the previous hexagram, making a young girl marry. In making a young girl marry, there is uncontrolled action based on emotion. obeying the mundane energy of conditioning and burying the primal celestial energy, taking the artificial to be real, taking misery for pleasure. Practitioners of Tao should first see through worldly things, looking upon all conditions, all existence as passing by, not nurturing the real by delighting in the false, not disturbing the inward because of the outward, understanding stillness and staying in the proper place, stabilizing illumination so that it is not damaged. When illumination and stillness are used together, one can thereby transcend the world while in the world. Therefore, travel is developmental when small, and travel leads to good fortune when correct. Small travel means applying illumination with stillness, so that illumination is not used arbitrarily. The good fortune of correctness is when illumination is based on stillness, resting in ultimate good. Applying illumination with stillness, one forgets feelings in the face of objects. When illumination is based on stillness, one ejects extreme intellectualism. Unperturbed, like a mountain stably resting on the earth, unbefuddled, like the sunlight shining in the sky. Inwardly, there is no disturbance. Outwardly, there is no obscurity. When there is something to do, you use clarity to deal with it. When there is nothing to do, you use clarity to remain still. You are then free from greed and craving, not expecting or pursuing, not lingering or tarrying. In general, travel as a path means just passing through once. You should not remain attached to the realm you pass through. If you are concerned with externals, you forget the inward. By pursuing ramifications, you abandon the root. When illumination is called for, then be aware. But while aware, still remain calm. When stillness is called for, be still. But while still, remain aware. When illumination and stability, awareness and stillness are unified, how can there be failure to develop and prosper? We will also look at the commentary section of Hexagram 56, Travel. In the commentary section, I-ming calls it transience, fire above, mountain below. There is fire atop a mountain, transient. Thus, superior people apply punishment with understanding and prudence, and do not keep people imprisoned. Transience means passing on, not remaining. Above is fire, below is mountain. There is fire atop a mountain. Fire atop a mountain does not burn for long. It passes through once and is over. This is the image of transience. What superior people see in this is that the penal system relates to human nature and life. If judgment is passed without understanding, the falsely accused cannot receive justice, and if punishment is inappropriately applied, the innocent are harmed. Therefore, superior people emulate the illumination of fire to clearly discern what is unjust and what is just, to affirm what is right and repudiate what is wrong. For those who have done wrong, this means to accept punishment with good grace. Superior people also emulate the caring warmth of mountains, being careful and prudent about punishment, making it light where possible, reducing it where possible. For those in charge of applying the law, this means not being arbitrary in punishment. With understanding and prudence, matters are settled as they are dealt with, and people are not kept imprisoned with suspicion and doubt and treated cruelly. In practice of the Tao, the use of understanding is to break through delusion. Being prudent and not overusing that understanding is the way to nurture reality. Through understanding and prudence, falsehood is done away with and truth is kept. Then one can stop striving and take to non-striving. This is like applying punishment with understanding and prudence and not keeping people imprisoned. If you do not know to stop at sufficiency, but keep on fussing, you will again call on delusion where there is no delusion, and prudence and produce mental illness. How then can you attain the state where one comprehension applies to everything? In the image of the hexagram, there is fire on a mountain. The mountain is the substance. The fire is the function. Understanding what should be understood, stopping when one should stop. Clarity is not separated from stillness. One clarifies the quality of illumination and rests in the highest good. Next, we will look at James Dekorne's Gnostic Book of Changes, which I have left links to in the description box below. It is quite his is pretty alchemical as well, but more from a Gnostic perspective, and also like a psyche perspective often. He uses quotes from people like Carl Jung and from things such as the Kabbalah. He calls Hexagram 56 transition. Other titles might be the Wanderer, the symbol of the traveler. Also, he synthesizes several I Ching commentaries in here, so it's quite valuable. And then he sums things up in his perspective at the end. The symbol of the traveler, the exile, sojourning, the newcomer, to lodge, to travel, traveling, the stranger, strangers, the traveling stranger, the outsider, the alien, the Gnostic, the tarot fool, wandering, homeless, uncommitted, on your own. A quote from D.F. Hook can refer to being out of one's element. Judgment leg. Transition means that small attainments are possible. If the traveling stranger is firm and correct, there will be good fortune. Wilhelm/Baines, the Wanderer. Success through smallness. Perseverance brings good fortune to the wanderer. Blofeld, the Traveler. Success in small matters. Persistence with regard to traveling brings good fortune. Liu, the Exile. Small success. To continue leads to good fortune. Ritzimal/Karcher. Sojourning, the small. Growing. Sojourning, trial, significant. This hexagram describes your situation in terms of wandering journeys and living in exile. It emphasizes that mingling with others as a stranger whose identity comes from a distant center is the adequate way to handle it. Wu, traveling indicates small pervasion. Perseverance will bring auspiciousness. The image, leg. A fire on the mountain, the image of transition. The superior man exerts cautious wisdom in his punishments and does not permit prolonged litigation. Wilhelm/Baines, fire on the mountain, the image of the wanderer. Thus, the superior man is clear-minded and cautious in imposing penalties and protracts no lawsuits. Blofeld, this hexagram symbolizes fire upon a mountain. The superior man employs wise caution in administering punishments and does not suffer the cases brought before him to be delayed. Liu, fire over the mountain symbolizes the exile. The superior man is careful and clever in imposing punishments and does not delay the cases brought. Commentary, Confucius/Leg. Transition indicates that there may be some small attainment and progress. The magnetic line occupies the central place in the upper trigram and is obedient to the dynamic lines above and below it. We also have the attributes of keeping still connected with intelligence in the lower and upper trigrams. Hence it is said that there may be some small attainment and progress. If the traveling stranger is firm and correct as he ought to be, there will be good fortune. Great is the time and great is the right course to be taken under these circumstances. Leg. The written Chinese character for this hexagram denotes people traveling abroad and is often translated as strangers. The figure addresses itself to traveling strangers and tells them how they ought to comport themselves through the cultivation of humility and firm correctness. By means of these, they would escape harm and make progress. The status of traveling strangers is seen as too low to expect great things of them. It is assumed that the wanderer is in the position of the fifth line. The ideas of humility, docility, calmness, and intelligence are derived from the attributes of the component trigrams. These are all characteristics which are proper to a stranger and are likely to lead to advancement and attainment of his desires. Concerning the image, Kong Ying Ta comments, "A fire on a mountain lays hold of the grass and runs with it over the whole space, not stopping anywhere long and soon disappearing. Such is the emblem of the traveler." Notes and paraphrases Judgment. During a transition, keep your willpower great and your expectations small. The superior man sees clearly and does not embroil himself in complexity. He is clear-minded and cautious in judging the truth of the situation, maintaining detachment from the social milieu. Wilhelm's translation of the title of this hexagram is The Wanderer. A wanderer is one who has no home, or who is between one home and another. This reminds us of the Gnostic notion of the alien, the incarnate soul exiled to wander in the space-time dimension, i.e. this world. A quote from Hans Jonas in The Gnostic Religion: "The alien is that which stems from elsewhere and does not belong here. The stranger who does not know the ways of foreign land wanders about lost. If he learns its ways too well, he forgets that he is a stranger and gets lost in a different sense by succumbing to the lure of the alien world and becoming estranged to his own origin. The recollection of his own alienness, the recognition of his place of exile for what it is the first step back. The awakened homesickness is the beginning of the return." Makes me think of the book, The Alchemist. Man, that's a good book. In the broadest interpretation, then, the message in the judgment, if the traveling stranger is firm and correct, there will be good fortune, can refer to not becoming entangled in the affairs of this world in which we wander, an idea emphasized in the first line. Ritson/Karcher state it explicitly, defining our challenge as mingling with others as a stranger whose identity comes from a distant center. This is good general advice for anyone seriously engaged in the work, since the distant center, God, or the self, represents the essence we incarnated to serve. A quote from the Pythagorean Ethic: "We are strangers in this world, and the body is the tomb of the soul. And yet we must not seek to escape by self-murder, for we are the chattels of God, who is our herdsman, and without his command we have no right to make our escape." In more specific situations, the hexagram symbolizes a transitional phase. Lines 2, 3, and 4 all depict inns or temporary resting places, commonly experienced in dreams as images of hotels or motels. The symbolism is identical. The psyche is reflecting an interim situation during a state of transition. By definition, a transition is fluid and not yet fixed. Depending upon the choices made, one can go in different directions. In terms of consciousness, it is obvious that the transition can be from a lower state of awareness to a higher one, or vice versa. Because a transition is an opportunity for deliberate choice-making, the Confucian commentary concludes with, "Great is the time, and great is the right course to be taken under these circumstances." Lines 1, 3, and 6 depict very negative situations involving ignorant, arrogant choices. We think of the ego blindly pushing the river of its desires, unable to see the unfortunate consequences it thereby engenders. Line 2 suggests a solid resting place during our journey, while line 4 depicts a tenuous, though not necessarily incorrect, similar situation. The fifth line counsels a kind of sacrifice to the ruler, the self, which results in an eventual reward. The message is to let the self guide you through a transition. Suggestions for meditation. Hexagram number 56 is the reverse of hexagram number 55. Compare the role of the superior man in the image of each figure. How are they the same? How are they different? What are the differences and similarities of the component trigrams of each hexagram, and how do they affect their respective meanings? A new paraphrase of the judgment and image that he added in August 15 of 2009. The Gnostic alien. Small attainments are possible if the alien keeps a clear head and maintains his self-discipline. The initiated adept is intelligent, discreet, and displays vigilant wisdom. He maintains and protects his gnosis via cautious reserve in worldly disputes, eschewing needless contention. He can do this because he knows that this is an illusory reality, a setup, a trap, a louche factory created by the demiurge. A Chunsu or chief son or superior person uses brightening consideration to avail of punishing and also not to detain litigating. In other words, do the work in the place in which you find yourself, quickly and efficiently, with as few entanglements as possible under the circumstances. Shun new karma. Implicit is that this experience is preparation for the bodhisattva vow. Next, we will get a randomly card drawn verse from the Tao Te Ching while we sum the reading up. Hexagram 56, Traveling, or the Traveler, or the Fool of the Tarot, as James Dekorne had as a title. Shows Li, Fire and Light above Gen Mountain, and Hilary Barrett related it to a traveler like going over a mountain and having a little campfire up there. And the idea is that we're not here very long. We only got this hexagram. We received no changing lines, so it highly emphasizes this hexagram for us. I-ming, I believe, and James Dekorne related it to like a fire burning over a mountain, and that it burns through and is gone. So there's also the idea of Li, Fire and Light being like intelligence, and Gen Mountain being like stillness. So stillness is supporting intelligence or illumination. And that being the case, we use it, this illumination, sparingly and directly. And the illumination isn't coming from any other place than stillness. So due to that, it's as though this intelligence or illumination and what actions we might take through it is centered in stillness. It's like part of the stillness itself. And it shuns lots of intellectualism. And the idea is to not lose yourself in a place that you're unfamiliar with, but also to fit in enough so that you don't cause yourself trouble with your surroundings, the people around you, and to keep to a distant center. So because we're not from here, in kind of like the idea James Dekorne was talking about, I want to just bring it out because it's absolutely brilliant. Yeah. Mingling with others as a stranger whose identity comes from a distant center. This is good general advice for anyone seriously engaged in the work, since the distant center, or God, or the self, represents the essence we are incarnated to serve. In more specific situations, the hexagram symbolizes a transitional phase. Lines 2, 3, and 4 all depict inns, or temporary resting places, commonly experienced in dreams as images of hotels or motels. The symbolism is identical. The psyche is reflecting an interim situation during a state of transition. By definition, a transition is fluid and not yet fixed. Depending upon the choices made, one can go in different directions. In terms of consciousness, it is obvious that the transition can be from a lower state of awareness to a higher one, or vice versa. Because a transition is an opportunity for deliberate choice-making, the Confucian commentary concludes with, "Great is the time and great is the right course to be taken under these circumstances." There we go. Small attainments are possible if the alien keeps a clear head and maintains his self-discipline. The initiated adept is intelligent, discreet, and displays vigilant wisdom. He maintains and protects his gnosis via cautious reserve in worldly disputes, eschewing needless contention. A Chun Tzu, or chief son or superior person, uses brightening consideration to avail of punishing and also not to detain litigating. In other words, do the work in the place in which you find yourself, quickly and efficiently, with as few entanglements as possible under the circumstances. Shun new karma. Implicit is that this experience is preparation for the bodhisattva vow. Also look at what I-ming said in the commentary section. Which is a nice alchemical commentary. 56 transients is what he calls it in the back here. He relates it to the penal system and not delaying judgment from those waiting to have a hearing, and also to decrease the punishment to the least when possible, and to not be unjust. And he uses Li, fire, and light as illumination of fire to clearly discern what is unjust and what is just, to affirm what is right and repudiate what is wrong. In practice of the Tao, the use of understanding is to break through delusion. Being prudent and not overusing that understanding is the way to nurture reality. Through understanding and prudence, falsehood is done away with and truth is kept. Then one can stop striving and take to non-striving, stillness of the mountain. This is like applying punishment with understanding and prudence and not keeping people imprisoned. If you do not know to stop at sufficiency, but keep on fussing, you will again call on delusion where there is no delusion and produce mental illness. How then can you attain the state where one comprehension applies to everything? I want to read that again. How then can you attain the state where one comprehension applies to everything? It's almost like using the intellect too much can tie you up in knots, reaching for the possible situations in the future. And therefore you get lost from your distant center. Being an alien in a foreign land, you wander away from your true home by getting too embroiled and caught up in the situation in this unfamiliar environment when you're just in the middle of a transition. In the image of the hexagram, there is fire on a mountain. The mountain is the substance, the fire is the function. Understanding what should be understood, stopping when one should stop. Clarity is not separated from stillness. One clarifies the quality of illumination and rests in the highest good. 3 readings from the Tao Te Ching, 11, 42, and 57. We'll read each one through 2 translations of the Tao Te Ching. One, the Eternal Tao Te Ching by Benjamin Hoff, and then Tao Te Ching translated by Jia Fu Feng in Jane English. So starting out, Benjamin Hoff tries to be as exact with things and draw out the true message as much as possible. I would consider Jia Fu Feng and Jane English to maybe be slightly more poetic. I like to end on the poetic, typically. So we'll do that. The value of emptiness, chapter 11. Fit 30 spokes together with one hub in order to make a wheel. In its emptiness, the hole in its hub can be found the wheel's usefulness. Shape clay into a form in order to make a vessel. In its emptiness, the cavity inside of it can be found the vessel's usefulness. Chisel out doors and windows in order to make a house. In its emptiness, the openings in its walls can be found the house's usefulness. Therefore, form is employed in order to make things clever. Emptiness is employed in order to make them useful. 11. 30 spokes share the wheel's hub. It is the center hole that makes it useful. Shape clay into a vessel. It is the space within that makes it useful. Cut doors and windows for a room. It is the holes which make it useful. Therefore, profit comes from what is there, usefulness from what is not there. Got this really kick-ass postcard from Port Gamble when we went last time, but I use it as a bookmark. It's incredible. I guess it's art. Woody the Owl by Vicky Sawyer, Vickisawayer. 42 in the Tao Te Ching. Without effort. The world's ultimate yielding softness quickly rides over the world's ultimate unyielding hardness. Without form enters without openings. Because of them, I know without effort's advantages. No word teachings and without effort benefits. Under heaven, few grasp them. The Tao begot one. There's no way that I read 42 correctly in this one then. Yeah, I read without effort 43. It was beautiful though. 1, 2, and 3, loss and gain, forceful and unbending. The way gave birth to the one. The one gave birth to the two. The two gave birth to the three. The three gave birth to the 10,000 things. The 10,000 things carry the dark on their backs and carry the light in their lit laps. They rotate the two energies in order to achieve harmony. What people greatly dislike is being orphaned, insignificant, or worthless. Yet kings and dukes, when they show courtesy to others, refer to themselves with those words. By diminishing themselves, they gain. By increasing themselves, they lose. What others teach, I will teach also. Those who are forceful and unbending do not die natural deaths. I will use that to be the father of my doctrine. Oops. The Tao begot one, one begot two, two begot three, and three begot the 10,000 things. The 10,000 things carry yin and embrace yang. They achieve harmony by combining these forces. Men hate to be orphaned, widowed, or worthless, but this is how kings and lords describe themselves. For one gains by losing, and loses by gaining. What others teach, I also teach. That is, a violent man will die a violent death. This will be the essence of my teaching. And 57. In divination, I feel as though the good combination between stillness and illumination or intelligence is constantly being found. It's like the balance that you learn where you let the flow that's coming through the divination speak with as few words as possible, and try to draw out the things that aren't quite clear at the same time. Cause and effect, chapter 57. Confucianists have a saying, by means of the upright govern the state. Militarists have a saying, by means of the unexpected deploy military forces. I have a saying, by means of without busyness, hold on to the nation. How can I know it is of value? By stopping, turning, and looking. The more fearsome prohibitions there are under heaven, the more complete is the poverty of the people. The more there are of posted laws and commands, the more robbers and thieves exist. The more sharp operators there are manipulating the people, the more confusion we have in the nation and the family. The more men there are of cleverness and cunning, the more strange matters arise. For those reasons, a wise ruler has said, a rule without forcing, and so the people self-transform. I rule without enforcing, and so the people self-transform. I love peace and stillness, and so the people self-correct. I act without busybodying, and so the people self-enrich. I live without desires, and so the people self-simplify. And 57, again. Rule a nation with justice. Wage war with surprise moves. Become master of the universe without striving. How do I know that this is so? Because of this. The more laws and restrictions there are, the poorer people become. The sharper men's weapons, the more trouble in the land. The more ingenious and clever men are, the more strange things happen. The more rules and regulations, the more thieves and robbers. Therefore, the sage says, I take no action and people are reformed. I enjoy peace and people become honest. I do nothing and people become rich. I have no desires and people return to the good and simple life.